Phillies and their fans return home for one final time in the year of 2016, but we expect it will be a special weekend for a lot of different reasons. It's the New York Mets in town, taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, and weekends with Schmidt. Take a look at the National League wildcard standings. The Mets certainly have something to play for. Their magic number is 2. They are 1 game up on the Giants, and the Cardinals 1 game behind them. Hi, everyone, and welcome into Phillies baseball alongside Mike Schmidt and Ben Davis. I'm Greg Murphy in for Tom McCarthy tonight. Well, 3 games to go here in the 2016 season. The Phillies return back to Citizens Bank Park, coming off what was a very difficult road trip for the team, and they have the role of spoiler once again as the New York Mets come to town. Ben, the Mets, they have an awful lot to play for. The Phillies, well, they'd like to see if they can ruin that for the New York Mets, but the Mets are throwing some pretty good arms at the Phils.
They definitely are, and the Mets have a perfect opportunity, really a perfect storm. 3 starters for them that have really been dominant. We're going to see them this weekend. Gesellman, Cologne, and Syndergaard. We know what the back end can do, but Robert Gesellman has been very, very good in holding the Phillies and really not letting them score any runs. He's got a very good sinker, mixing in a couple sliders, an occasional changeup, but he does it with a powerful sinker, one that can reach in the mid-90s. He will backdoor that slider. But again, the Phillies have to make sure they get that pitch up tonight.
Well, Gesellman has been very good, but he is a guy that this Phillies lineup has seen a couple of times so far this season. They will look to do some damage early against the Mets starter in hopes of getting to him and getting the Phils a win here at Citizens Bank Park. Well, Citizens Bank Park is always a nice place to play for the Philadelphia Phillies. However, Mike, it has been a tough place for this team this year. They are 500 so far at home this month at 6-6, but for most of the season, it's been a tough place to play.
Yeah, thank you, Murph. Good to be with you and Ben on a Friday night. Yeah, it has been a rough year for the Phillies at home. And, you know, good teams control their home field. Why not? You got home cooking. You know the nuances of the ballpark. You got a friendly crowd. And you have last at-bats. Here you see on the screen here the breakdown by month. Worst month has been June for sure. 3-11, a 36-42 record at home. Well, we need to improve on that by 3 games maybe this series. And I just want to see 3 well-played, clean games. I'd like to see the Phillies win all 3. Remember, no one but the Phils is allowed to drink champagne in this ballpark.
And that's what the Mets are thinking. They're thinking they can celebrate with a couple of wins here in Philadelphia. The Phils looking to prevent that on their home turf. Well, the ball will be in the hands of Alec Asher tonight for the Phils. He's looking for win number 3 on the season. He has been real good since coming back up to the major leagues in late September. Also, Robert Gesellman, we talked about, he's been very good for the Mets as well. Well, as we mentioned, it should be a special weekend for lots of reasons, and maybe a special weekend for that guy. Well, we've got lineups and first pitch coming up. We know for a fact that Brian Howard will be in the lineup all 3 games this weekend. Phillies baseball Phillies take the field at Citizens Bank Park to begin the final homestand of the season. And looking to, as we've talked about, play spoiler to the New York Mets, who are still trying to get into the postseason. Well, here is the starting lineup for the New York Mets. It's brought to you by Xfinity. The Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Leading off and playing third base, Jose Reyes, followed by Asdrubal Cabrera and Yoenis Cespedes out there in left. Curtis Granderson will bat fourth and play center field. Jay Bruce gets the start in right. TJ Rivera is at second. Lucas Duda will play first base and bat seventh, followed by Rene Rivera and the pitcher Robert Gesellman. And they will face the Phillies' Alec Asher, making his fifth start of this season. He's 2-0 with a 1.66 ERA. And guys, since he's been back, he has been pretty good.
He's been outstanding. You see the 2-0 record, but the 1.66 ERA, that's the number that always sticks out to me. Take a look at the scouting report. He's not an overpowering pitcher. He'll sit about 90 miles an hour. Depends, you know, if his sinker's working, he will rely on that sinker to get a lot of ground balls and pitch to contact. 171 opposition against that sinker.
All right, so we'll get underway on kind of a dreary night here in Philadelphia. The first pitch from Alec Asher is a little bit outside for a ball, so it's 1-0 to Jose Reyes, who leads it off for the Mets, batting .268. And he fouls that one straight back. It's 1-1 to Jose Reyes. You see the numbers on the season: 8 home runs and 23 RBIs for the Mets leadoff man. He hits that one in the air, shallow center field. In fact, Cesar Hernandez in very shallow center will go back and make the play, and that's the first out of the inning. So Phil's looking for a win, and to do that, well, how about our Nissan keys to the game, Mike?
Yeah, Murph, I mentioned it in the opening. I think it'd be very important for the Phillies to play clean baseball against these Mets, especially for 3 games. Good, clean games, do the right things, run the bases well, play defense, get some good timely hits, tough at-bats. Be good to take a good, clean series into the offseason with them.
I'd love to see the bullpen not walk anybody. That recent road trip, a lot of walks, and the offense needs to make Gesellman get his sinker elevated.
Gesellman we'll talk about in a minute. He's been pretty good since the Phils have seen him, since he's been called up, as Asdrubal Cabrera will take that first pitch from Alec Asher on the outside corner for a strike. Asher works quickly. The 0-1 pitch. 1-1 now to Cabrera. You see Terry Collins, 479 wins as the manager of the Mets. World Series appearance a year ago. Trying to guide his team back to the postseason for the second straight year. Big swing and a miss. It's 1-2.
Collins done an unbelievable job with the injuries he's had. I mean, geez, you guys can go over him at some point during the game, but I know there's been a lot of them. And I would think he would get some strong consideration for National League Manager of the Year.
It is amazing what they have lost when you look at their opening day roster, their opening day rotation, the 5 guys they thought were going to be their starting pitchers throughout the season, and to think where they are now. It's you're right. Terry Collins deserves a lot of credit for keeping this team together. Count is even 2-2. The 2-2 pitch grounded foul. So we'll do it again. 2-2. When a Cespedes waits on deck, he has 31 home runs on the season. The top of the lineup for the New York Mets has been very good for most of the season, but they have been especially good in the month of September, as Cabrera swings and hits that one in the air. Going back on it is Paredes and Herrera, and Paredes will make the catch.
Wow, look at him wind blow that ball. Thought he had an infield pop up there, and it ended up almost at a warning track. Going hard from right field to left field.
Yeah, the current conditions are not too good. As you see the mist in the air, it's not really raining as much as it's misting. But you mentioned, Mike, the wind blowing pretty strongly from right field to left field, and in, I guess, if anything, it's not going to help the baseball leave the ballpark tonight. But you know what? It's better than last night. Stop and think about it. So at least we're able to play some baseball. First pitch to Yoenis Cespedes is outside for a ball. It's 1-0. So 2 outs here in the top of the first.
Well, there's no doubt Cespedes is the key to this team's lineup. He's had one hitter in the 3 or 4 hole that you don't want to let beat you. Hit the ball out to all parts of the ballpark. 100 RBI guy. Without him, the lineup looks totally different.
Yeah, I totally agree. Pete Mackanin talked about what Cespedes' presence in that lineup did for them a year ago. We remember, and they went on their run late in the season to get into the postseason. And it hasn't stopped this year as he fouls that one back. How about what he's done against the Phillies this year? 9 home runs, 21 RBIs in 22 games versus the Phillies in his career. 21 RBIs in 22 games. That's production.
RBI a game is about as good as you can do.
Well, count is 2-2 to Cespedes. 2-2 pitch. Ground ball. Cesar Hernandez in the shift. And out number 3. So Alec Asher able to navigate his way through the top of the New York Mets lineup here in the top of the first. They go 1-2-3, go the Mets. We'll head to the bottom of the first with no score. See if they can put some runs on the board, something the New York Mets weren't able to do. Here is the starting lineup for the Phillies. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. We've seen this lineup a lot this season. Cesar Hernandez will lead off, followed by Freddie Galvis and Odubel Herrera. Maikel Franco will back cleanup, play third base, followed by Ryan Howard over there at first. Cameron Rupp is doing the catching tonight. Left fielder will be Jimmy Paredes, and out there in right is Aaron Altair. Alec Asher will pitch and bat ninth. They will face Robert Gesellman, appearing in his 8th game, his 7th start for the New York Mets. His record 3-2, 2.56, and one of those wins against the Phillies his last time out. He was very, very good against this lineup.
He sure was. 7 innings pitched, 0 earned runs in that last ball game. We'll sit between 93, 94. He might be a little amped up today if what's on the line for these Mets. Change curve and a slider as well.
First pitch to Cesar Hernandez. He bunts at it, bunts through it. So 0-1 to Hernandez. Hernandez batting .293, 6 home runs, 38 RBIs. He's been very good in that leadoff spot for the Phils. He grounds that one to the right side. Rivera gobbles it up, and that's the first out of the inning. So 1 down for the Phils, and that'll bring up Freddie Galvis. Well, today's Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Donna Penestri from Barrington, New Jersey. The Phillies hit a home run in the game, and Donna will win $300. McDonald's Mix and Match any 2 for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu.
Good luck, Donna.
Hey, we'll talk about Cesar again as the game goes on, but here's Freddie. What a year he's had, and I still think there's more in the tank for Freddie next year. You know, this is going to be a good bridge year for him to next year. Confidence-wise, he's got to be where he needs to be now in terms of confidence. And man, he's a warrior. He comes to play every day. I think he's maybe missed 5 games this entire season.
Fouls that one out of play.
You know, a steady, durable gamer type player that he is those are hard to find nowadays.
And emerging as a team leader in that clubhouse as well. We saw he and Pete Mackanin having a conversation late in the blowout game in Atlanta. He fouls that one straight back. He was a part of that players-only team meeting. He got up and spoke to his teammates. I agree with you, Mike. I think even in the second part of this season, even though the offense wasn't there for Freddie Galvis, kind of a coming of age, coming out party for Freddie Galvis. We knew the defense was going to be solid, but he's really starting to become that all-around player.
What I've liked about him is I think he's kind of taken over the reins from when Chooch left. I mean, he's that guy in the clubhouse that always looks in the eye, shakes your hand, always has a big smile on his face, much like Carlos Ruiz did.
1-2 pitch to Freddie. Check swing. Did he go? No, he did not. So it's 2-2 to Freddie Galvis.
I think the Mets bench wanted that call.
Is that what I heard? Yeah, they're shaking their heads.
See, you get calls like that at home. Remember, at home, it's a friendly place to play.
That's what the Phils are hoping for in these final 3 games as Freddie Galvis swings through that one, and it's a strikeout for Gasol, his first of the evening, and it's 2 outs for the Phillies.
It's a good pitch. It's a slider. Saw Rivera put down a 3, but that acts more like a cutter with some lateral movement at 91 miles an hour. Boy, that's a good pitch.
Where do these guys keep coming from, these Mets pitchers?
It is remarkable to think that Robert Gesellman was not on their radar as Google Herrera lines that one to left field, and Cespedes makes the catch. He was not on the radar coming into this season, but he was forced upon them, and he has been very good. No score after 1. Friday, brought to you by Dominion National, providing innovative, high-value dental and vision benefits to area employers and individuals. Visit DominionNational.com. Lots of El Torito fans in the house, and lots of smiles on those fans' faces. It's a good night. Enjoy some baseball here at Citizens Bank Park. Well, Mets went down 1-2-3 in the top half of the first. Asher back out there to work here in the top of the second. He'll face Granderson, Bruce, and Rivera in the Mets lineup. First pitch to Granderson is off the plate. It's 1-0.
Granderson's really turned his season around. I mean, he was struggling last time, not last week, but prior to that, the Phillies trip to New York. He was sitting in high, the low 200s, and he's really come back average-wise to get that average back up to 233. Power number's still there, 30 and 59.
30 home runs, but just 59 RBIs, which is part of the story for Curtis Granderson. But you're right, he's been hot of late. 8 for his last 16. Ball's in the dirt, so it's 3-1 to Granderson. His 8 home runs, I'm sorry, in September, which is second best in the National League as well.
Just find a way to get it done.
3-1 pitch. Hit in the air. Left field. Not deep. Jimmy Paredes waits and waits, and that's the first out of the inning. Well, a reminder, this is just the first of the final 3 games of the season. Tomorrow's game, Saturday afternoon at 1:05. That's the new time, 1:05. And Sunday at 3:05, it's Fan Appreciation Day. 2017 Phillies schedule Fathead, free to all fans. And there will be a pregame mention of Ryan Howard and a presentation to him as well. So order your tickets now at Phillies.com. So Jay Bruce is the batter. He also has started to turn things around in a Mets uniform. See his last 5 games, 7 for 16, 3 home runs in those games. It's outside for a ball, so it's 2-0 to Bruce. He really struggled when he got to New York.
Yeah, but Jay Bruce, what a quiet year he's had. I didn't even realize he had over 30 home runs, and you know, he's knocking on the 100 RBI door as well. You know, the strikeouts have always plagued him. 245 batting average. I know there's a lot more in his tank. Not sure where it'll be next year, as he's a free agent.
Well, you're right about that, Mike. You look at his numbers, you know, with the Reds and the Mets. 245, 32 home runs, 96 RBIs, and that was with a very couple quiet weeks after the trade deadline with the Mets. But he has started to heat up. I think I mentioned in New York when we were doing the games in New York that it would not surprise me if he emerges, if the Mets get into the postseason, if he emerges as a guy that does some damage in the postseason. Dribbler, Cameron Rupp calls off Alec Asher. Makes the play.
Yeah, good play, Cameron. Although Asher's a good fielder, Cameron's got the momentum going toward first base. He's first base on his right-hand side. Knows Jay Bruce doesn't run well. Here you see him. He calls him off. And he has a good sense of how much time he has. Makes a nice throw.
And I like the fact that he went after that, did Cameron Rupp, with his bare hand, because the ball, even for a brief second, came to a complete stop. He didn't have to scoop it up with his mitt. Obviously, he had to hurry, but it also helps when you have a strong arm like Cameron does.
By the way, my fault. You should handle the catching. The highlights for catchers.
I think it was okay. I think it worked out fine. So 2 outs here in the top of the second. And T.J. Rivera is the batter. Pitch is a little bit low and outside, so the count is even 1-1 to Rivera, getting the start at second base tonight.
I caught in Little League. You remember back when I caught, I had this big chest protector, you know, that had the thing to protect your groin area hanging down there.
Yep. And the little thing to protect your neck as well, perhaps dangling a little piece of plastic. Well, we've come a long way. Maikel Franco gets the final out of the inning. 5-3 is the put out. No score. Bottom of the second. 7. The Philadelphia Union's fight for the playoffs takes them north to battle the league's leading scorer, Bradley Wright Phillips, and the New York Red Bulls. It's a Union versus Red Bulls, New York and Philadelphia, Saturday night at 7 over on TCN. New York and Philadelphia here tonight at Citizens Bank Park as we head to the bottom of the second. No score. 4, 5, and 6 for the Phils to face Robert Gesellman. Retired the Phils in order in the first inning. So the first to face him will be Maikel Franco. Franco steps in and lines that one right at third base, and Reyes can't handle it. And that may have hit his foot, and I think it did as he stays down. That'll be a base hit for Franco. That's why they call it the hot corner, Mike. You want to handle this one?
I'm not touching it. I'm laughing. No disrespect. I hope he isn't hurt, and he doesn't look like it. We'd all be yelling, "Put your glove on your foot!"
Yeah. Yeah. You guys can. Oh yeah, hit him in the front foot. It looked like.
Well, let's put it this way: that ball's hit well. I'm telling you, it was hit hard and well. First ball, fastball. Nice reception for Ryan Howard. People sensing that, I don't know, there may be something in the air with regard to Ryan as a Philadelphia Philly. We know nothing about it, and we hope to see a lot of Ryan.
Certainly a nice reception indeed by the fans here in Philadelphia as Franco takes his lead off first. Takes that first pitch a little bit low for a ball, so it's 1-0. There you see Howard's numbers on the year, and you're right in that you know, there is. We don't know what is going to happen in the future with Ryan Howard. Certainly we can speculate that perhaps this is the final series that he'll play in a Phillies uniform. That remains to be seen, but as he drives that one to straightaway center field, the wind is going to knock it down, so it's going to hit off the top of the wall. Franco will end up at third, and Howard at second. Man, oh man, easily a home run if the wind isn't blowing straight in.
That's amazing. Ryan thought he had a long home run when that left home plate. I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't watch him. See? Oh my God! I don't think he. I don't think I've ever seen a ball come back into the park like that here.
He really hit that hard, and you know, off the bat it looked like a home run easily, but I can see the wind starting to knock it down. You see Ryan sees it starting to knock it down, so he motors into second base. But well, that's what we've come accustomed to. Ryan Howard.
It's a good sign for the Phillies offense. Last couple balls have been hit right on the nose. I thought that ball was going to hit the Liberty Bell. That ball was
so crushed. Did Ryan.
It was loud.
Well, now where we want to see some good, clean, good baseball like we were talking about.
Cameron Rupp will be the batter, and he takes that first pitch over for a strike.
Now Ryan got himself into a good hitter's count, 1-0 count, and that was one of my keys to the game. Mike Gesellman, get that sinker up. That was a perfect example. That ball was elevated, and he did not try and pull it, stayed through it. It's exactly what you want to do it against a sinker ball.
So runners lead off second and third. Maikel Franco and Ryan Howard, the base runners. Cameron Rupp swings and fouls that one out of play.
And that's the right idea. You can tell by that swing he was trying to stay inside the ball and trying to shoot the ball the other way. Shoot it the other way on the ground. You may get a line drive out of it, but keep the ball out of the air. You killed two birds with one stone here just with a ground ball to the right side. Run scores. Ryan moves to third.
Count is 0-2 to Cameron Rupp. 0-2 pitch. Low for a ball. It's 1-2. Cameron 254 with 16 home runs and 53 RBIs. Opportunity to add to that total right here. Selman has his sign from the stretch. 1-2 pitch inside and off the glove of Rene Rivera, but doesn't go very far. So it's 2-2 now to Cameron Rupp.
Like Cam gave up on that breaking ball just a little bit, and he kind of spun up there and hung inside. But you got to keep that pitch in the back of your mind now with first base open.
Saw Jimmy Paredes waiting on deck. 2-2 pitch. And that one is hit in the air in right field. Chasing it is Jay Bruce over by the line. He'll make the catch. Tagging from third is Maikel Franco. The throw to the plate. Not in time. Safe at home is Maikel Franco. It was a good throw by Jay Bruce and a good tag by Rivera, but just getting his hand in is Franco, and that's the first run of the ball game.
There you go. That's what hitting the ball the opposite field can do for you. Even with a good throw, Franco scores. Cameron gets an RBI. A couple little steps he had to take after catching that ball probably cost him, but still, good hitting. Hit the ball the opposite field. RBI, run. Ryan Howard moves up to third with 1 out.
Just a couple of great looks at that as well. You'll get a clap from Cameron Rupp. Franco had to deal with the bat as well, diving over that. But Phils are the first to score here in the bottom of the second inning. 1-0. Still a runner on third. That's a line shot right at Jose Reyes, and he makes the catch. So Paredes hit it hard. Reyes able to catch that one, and that'll be the second out of the inning.
Nothing you can do.
No, that's the old stay with him.
Yep.
That was in slow motion.
Well, he likes it hit the air there. He didn't like it hit at his feet.
So
but that's good hitting, good base running by Ryan too, not being caught off.
Gesellman can see himself out of any further damage with 2 outs, and Aaron Altair is the batter. Batting .205 with 4 home runs and 22 RBIs. One-0 pitch in the dirt.
Did you prefer when a lefty hit that ball so it's slicing to your backhand as opposed to a righty hitting that ball and sometimes it would hook to your backhand? Did you prefer?
Never gave it a thought.
Really?
Just catch it.
It's just like playing catch with you. Right?
2-0 pitch is outside intentionally for a ball, so it looks like they will walk Aaron Altair and they will deal with the pitcher Alec Asher. That's
not to make light of your question. I hear what you're saying, but I mean really it's just a line drive head high, and
I just think from a lefty,
I don't know how you can miss it.
Yeah, but I just think from a lefty it would have more of a lateral movement to it. If a righty gets up there and he completely hooks one, it's going to be sinking down into your backhand. I'm thinking that one there might be a little bit easier to catch.
Well, the runners are on the corners for Alec Asher. He steps in from the right side. 1 for 9 on the season is Asher. Takes that one inside for a ball. It's 1-0. There leads off first. Howard off third. It's grounded foul, so it's 1-1 now to Asher.
His pitching staff gets their swings in, that's for sure.
They all enjoy hitting. All pretty good athletes. I think that's part of it. They probably were all pretty good hitters in high school and maybe even early in their professional careers. So the count is even, 1-1 to Asher. Takes that one over for a strike. It's 1-2. Pitch in the dirt. So it's 2-2 to Asher. The Mets will have to come from behind. It's something they've been kind of getting used to. Their 4th straight game that their opponent has scored first. Hasn't deterred Terry Collins and the Mets, though. They've won 5 of their last 7 and 16 of their last 24 games. Outside for a ball. So full count to Alec Asher. Top of the order, Cesar Hernandez awaits. Three-two pitch, swing and miss, and he got it. So Asher goes down swinging, and Gesellman able to get out of the inning without any further damage. But Not before the Phils put a run on the board. A double by Ryan Howard, and then a sacrifice fly gets Maikel Franco touching home plate. The Phils lead it by 1. One nothing lead on their 2 hits. And here's our Geico quote of the day. It's from Phil's manager Pete Mackanin on Ryan Howard and his dedication to want to play every day and not one time off, even in the middle of a slump, to go out there and battle his way instead of maybe I need a day off or so. He didn't do that, and it didn't matter who was pitching, a lefty or a righty. He wants to play, and that's invaluable as far as I'm concerned. Ryan Howard has been that kind of player in his entire career. He certainly has not changed this season. He's wanted to play, even though with the emergence of Tommy Joseph, he knows he has to share that position at this point, but he wanted to be out there each and every day. And Leslie Goodell, you know, a lot of folks are looking at this weekend as perhaps a chance to honor Ryan Howard, but he's not looking at it that way at all.
Yeah, we know he's the most popular guy in the ballpark these days, but he just wants to play baseball right now. He said he's getting hit right and left by people who want to know memories, emotions, can he remember his favorite time here? And he said he hasn't thought about any of that. He said it's not a homework assignment. There's no due date for him to start feeling these emotions that everybody thinks he should be feeling at this point, and that he would be doing a disservice to himself, he said, to try to feel something that he doesn't feel yet. He really wants to just embrace what he has right now. In fact, he used that word, I want to embrace what I have right now. And he said, I don't know what my favorite memory is. I could go out on Sunday and hit an inside the park home run, and I promise you that would be top 2 in my career. But he just wants to play baseball. I do think, Murph, that come Sunday, though, when he's honored before the game, and just seeing the reception that he got when he just walked up to the plate, I think he's going to start feeling a little something before the weekend's out.
Lucas Duda turns on that one. Odubel Herrera calling off Aaron Altera at the track and makes the catch for the first out. Again, the wind knocking these balls down, no doubt about it. Here's what Brad Lidge and some of his teammates have had to say. We're going to hear from some of his teammates over the course of the next couple of days. He said Ryan Howard was a freakish talent and the reason why opposing pitchers hated the bullpens in Philly. Despite that, he always remained humble in the clubhouse, never put himself above his teammates, always seemed to play his best when we needed him most in September. I'll never forget how he changed games just by his presence alone. He was a joy to watch play and a joy to be with in the clubhouse. That is Brad Lidge, his teammate, obviously, a world champion alongside Ryan Howard. And, you know, I think what Leslie said is interesting, guys. You can't make yourself feel something that you're not ready to feel quite yet, and that's the way Ryan Howard feels. Aaron Altera makes the catch for the second out.
Well, you know, there's nothing more valuable and makes you feel better than when you feel love from your teammates. You know, I mean, I experienced that. I retired actually before I got that feeling. Of course, Ryan has not retired yet. He's still playing for the Phillies, but to hear a lot of these guys, his teammates, come out and say wonderful things like Brad Lidge did about him, you know, that can mean as much as anything that happened on the field.
The batter is Robert Gesellman. Takes that first pitch over for a strike. It's 0-1.
And at some point, it's human nature. You're going to feel something. He's not a robot.
Yeah.
You know, so to spend this amount of time in one city, in one place, and do the things that he's done in this ball game, a lot to be said for that.
1-1 pitch is over for a strike. It's 1-2. Bottom line is Ryan Howard is going to play baseball next year. He wants to play baseball next year. He wants to play, whether it's here in Philadelphia or somewhere else, that remains to be seen. And that is on the outside corner for a called third strike. So until then, we'll just have fun watching him play. And we'll have fun watching Alec Asher do that as he gets the called third strike. And the Phils lead it 1-0. ChooseNissan.com. By McDonald's. Mix and match any two for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu. And by your local Ford store. Check out every new Ford car, truck, and SUV crossover at BuyFordNow.com today. We head to the bottom of the third. Phils with a 1-0 lead. And looking to add on some more against Mets right-hander Robert Gesellman. See all the players somewhat bundled up, sweatshirts tonight, as the temperatures certainly have dropped. And coming back from Atlanta and getting off the airplane to pouring rain and some chilly temperatures last night. We haven't felt that in quite some time. Well, it'll be the top of the order for the Phils here in the bottom of the third. Cesar Hernandez we first to face Gesellman, and he takes that one over for a strike and is grounded out to second in his first at bat.
And it's crazy. You guys were on the road. I wasn't on the road trip, but there were some beautiful days here in the Delaware Valley.
That one is sliced and headed out of play. So 0-2 quickly to Cesar Hernandez. Yeah, and it was beautiful in Atlanta. It was beautiful in New York while we were there, and then Atlanta, but it was warm down in Atlanta. Getting back to Philadelphia last night, it must have been a 25-30 degree difference. The 2 pitches in the dirt. It's 1-2.
Well, we can't take what he's done this year lightly. I mean, it's been a great year for him, hitting in the mid-290s. He strikes out on a low fastball, but he's first in the league in triples, bunt hits, fourth in singles. Cesar's having a heck of a year.
Yeah, and especially the second half of the season where, you know, he was talked to by Larry Boa, and Larry said to him, look, you need to pick it up. You need to be better. You are better, and you need to be better. And he certainly took that message to heart and has had a terrific second half of the season. That'll bring up Freddie Galvis. Freddie swings through that one. He struck out his first at bat. It's 0-1 to him. Gets that one out of play. 0-2 quickly to Freddie Galvis. outside for a ball. 1-2.
You're right about him being out there every day, Mike. This is his 157th ball game that he's been in.
Another foul ball and out of play, so it remains 1-2 to Freddie Galvis.
As Freddie has in the back of his mind that little cutter he struck out on first time up.
And he swings through that one. It's the second time that Freddie Galvis goes down swinging. Fourth strikeout for Robert Gesellman on the evening. Time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information. And please submit your answer on the subject line.
Tom
The question
Seaver.
today, what Mets pitcher, so far so good,
Jerry Kuzman.
did Ryan Howard hit the most home runs off of?
Oh,
That's the question. Mets pitcher, Ryan Howard, home runs. We'll let you think about that one. And we'll get back to that a little bit later in the game, in the ball game. Odubel Herrera is the batter. It's 1-0 to him. He lined out to left field. He went to Cespedes back there in the first inning.
And that was a fake bunt, or was that just a take?
Never know with Odubel Herrera. Takes that one, and it's a bit high for a ball, so it's 2-0 to Herrera.
the numbers against this pitcher were staggering. Every time he started against him, it was.
Oh, so you know who it is already?
I do.
All right.
I think I do. Let's put it that way.
You've had no chance to call your brother. That's so that's great. Here's the 2-1 pitch. Ground ball to the right side, and that will sneak into right field for a base hit. So Herrera is a 2-out base runner. El Torito fans are enjoying that. So let's bring up Maikel Franco, who singled his first at bat. Yep, put up the horns. What a great age to be a baseball fan, huh?
That's a great hat.
So, yeah, that's connected to Odubel. I didn't
Odubel,
realize
yeah.
that.
That's El Torito, the little bull.
No.
The legions of fans for El Torito is growing. So Franco steps in and takes that first pitch for a ball. It's 1-0. He hit the ball hard his first time down there to third base. Jose Reyes couldn't handle it. It was a base hit. He came around and scored later in that inning. Odubel Herrera leads off first. Pitch to Franco on the ground to third base, and this time Reyes is up with it. And that is the third out of the inning.
It's a good arm right there.
It sure is. He needed it as Franco was getting down the line quickly, but that is the third out. So we will head to the fourth. The Phillies still with a 1-0 lead. A 1-0 lead. Asher has been good through the first pass through the Mets lineup. He looks to do it again as the top of the order will start off here in the fourth. HP new series of color laser jet printers delivered unmatched quality, and their Jet Intelligent toner cartridges print up to 1/3 more pages. Get yours from who but WB Mason today and experience the difference. Nobody beats WB on HP. So it is Jose Reyes to lead it off here in the fourth for the Mets. First pitch, Reyes is hit inside and low for a ball. It's 1-0. He popped out to very shallow center field. Cesar Hernandez making the play back there in the first.
I got to tell you, if I were commissioner, and maybe this is because I'm an old school guy, but first thing I'd do next year would be eliminate the day glow accessories on players.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and the Mets, they have the most players I've seen.
Well, I think Cespedes brought that over with the batting gloves and the sleeves, the Dago sleeves, etc.
2-1 pitch. That one is driven into center field. Odubel Herrera going back on it. He's at the track 11 room, and he'll make the catch.
That might have been the best one yet. The best one hit into the wall yet, and the wall is the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, the wind is obviously making a difference. I think Howard's ball would have gone out, no wind. I think Duda's ball would have gone out, no wind. That one would have at least gotten to the wall in a hurry.
I think all three would have gone out if there wasn't as much wind. That's how well all three balls have been hit.
Well, it is just the first out here in the fourth, and that'll bring up Asdrubal Cabrera. He flew out to left field in his only appearance so far. Alec Asher's last start was versus these Mets. He misses low. It's 2-0. He was perfect through 3 in that one as well, and ran into a little bit of trouble with a couple of errors behind him, and things started to unravel in the 5th inning of that game as that one is lined to left. Jimmy Paredes comes in and heads back out a little bit, and he makes the catch. Well, with MLB.TV Premium, watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 supported devices and enjoy a free subscription to @Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.TV. So 2 quick outs here in the 4th inning. That'll bring up Yoenis Cespedes. First pitch to Cespedes is on the outside corner for a strike. So Cespedes leads the Mets in batting average, home runs, and RBIs this year. He's one of 6 players in Major League Baseball to lead his team in all 3 of those categories, and promptly hits a base hit center field for the first base runner tonight against Alec Asher.
Well, that's hitting them where they ain't. The shift. Cespedes hits a little breaking ball out over the plate where the second baseman has vacated his position. I don't mind that with 2 outs.
Keep him in the ballpark.
Maybe he was in that I'm going to get a hit here to put this no-hitter out of play.
Perhaps. So Curtis Granderson will step in, and he flew out to center field as well in his first at bat. Cespedes leads off first with 2 outs here in the top of the 4th. Foul back. It's 0-2 to Curtis Granderson.
Got away with one there. That was a good pitch to hit the Grandy man. Stands very close to the plate. Very rarely will you see him hit a ball out to left field. Most of his home runs are to the pull side, obviously to right field. But if you want to go in there, I'd like to see a 4-seamer in there as opposed to a 2-seamer, which just ran back out over the plate.
Quick throw over chases Cespedes back. Cespedes not much of a threat to run, just 3 stolen bases so far this season. The 0-2 pitch. That is fouled down the left field line and out of play. So it remains 0-2 to Curtis Granderson.
Looking out there, if they turned the lights out in the stadium right now, we could find Cespedes, who looks like he's got a little pain going on over there. He can't get loose or something, but
he was kind of stretching it out with Tom Goodwin over there. And that is another foul ball. So the count is still 0-2 to Curtis Granderson. Your point is well taken about the lights, though. Now the orange is.
I don't mind the orange.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
even a good day glow.
Part of the
It has
orange.
to be one of your team colors.
Yeah. The 0-2 pitch. That is popped out into left center field, and that is going to fall in for a hit. So that is the second straight hit for the New York Mets. They now have runners on first and second with 2 outs. Jimmy Paredes and Odubel Herrera, no chance at getting that one, especially with the wind blowing in. You see Cespedes and what Mike was talking about.
You know, I guess he's saying, man, I tell you, Freddie, it's hard getting old playing in this cold weather.
Yeah, he's pushing 29, I guess, right? You just wait, Yoenis. All right, first and second now, and that'll bring up Jay Bruce. He swings through that one. It's 0-1 to Bruce.
Change up. Nice arm speed on that pitch.
See what he did in his first at bat. Asher would take a ground out here. The 0-1 pitch. Inside for a ball.
A good spot to miss, though.
Still low.
Doubled up with that changeup. Good spot to miss. Down and away. Although it was definitely a pitch that Bruce had to take a look at whether or not he was going to swing.
One pitch, and that is just outside.
Wow.
Pretty close. Ted Barrett, the crew chief behind home plate tonight, says no. So 2-1 now to Jay Bruce. Outside, ball 3. 3-1 now. And you see the umpires for tonight. Ted Barrett is behind the plate. Will Little over at first. Lance Barksdale at second. Angel Hernandez over there at third.
I don't know if I'd give in to him right here and get in that left-hander's hot zone. I mean, I might just stay out there and start over with the right-handed hitter on deck, even though it would load the bases.
Let's see what Alec Asher has in mind. The 3-1 pitch. And he swings and he turns on that, but he hooks it foul and out of play. So the changeup, he was a little bit ahead of that one, and that makes it 3-2. The out-of-town scoreboard. Detroit down there in Atlanta for the final 3 games at Turner Field, and they've jumped out to an early lead over the Atlanta Braves, 3-0. Miguel Cabrera just keeps on hitting them. 37 for him on the season. There you see what it means for the Tigers. They're still in it, but they need probably to win all 3 games down there at Turner Field. So
those bitter rivals, the Tigers and the Braves.
3-2 pitch. Fouled at the plate. Yeah, we were talking about that over the last couple of days. A strange team to finish up and close out a ballpark with no real rivalry whatsoever, but that's interleague play in 2016. Someone's got to play the interleague series, so it happened to be the Braves and the Tigers.
Interleague game every day of the season this year.
So the count is full to Jay Bruce. Runners lead off first and second. Foul back. We'll do it again. That sounded like a candidate for plays of the year next year. I didn't see it, but
it must have been good. Somebody's getting a standing ovation down there. especially on a cold night like this if you got a bare hand one of those babies.
Well, the fans are putting their hands together for a big moment in this ball game. Runners off first and second, full count. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Another foul. Ooh, hot shot into the crowd. Cameron Rupp wants to have a word with Jay Bruce, or with Alec Asher. He might be having a word with Jay Bruce or two, but he wants to talk to Alec Asher about Jay Bruce.
He's in swing mode right now. You don't have to be perfect. He's shown that he already will chase out of the strike zone. So you don't have to be perfect with it.
The 9th pitch of this at bat is coming.
He never liked to nibble, but now wouldn't be a bad time to.
3-2 pitch. Line drive just out of reach of Cesar Hernandez, and that's going to score a run. Cespedes will come around and score. Moving up to third is Curtis Granderson. So on the 9th pitch of the at bat, Jay Bruce delivers for the Mets, and we have ourselves a tie ball game.
Yeah, that ball was scalded, guys. Good at bat by Jay Bruce.
It's a good at bat.
There it is. Low and away, you know. Went down, stayed on that ball, extended his arms just out of reach of Cesar. I mean, just under his glove, actually. Ties the ball game up.
2-out rally.
2-out rally indeed, as the Mets are looking for more with runners on the corners. TJ Rivera is the batter. The first pitch to Rivera is a little bit low for a ball. It's 1-0. Asher got the first two batters. The line drive from Jose Reyes was caught in center field. The pop up to left field by Asdrubal Cabrera, but then a base hit by Cespedes, Granderson, and Bruce has plated the first run for the Mets. Rivera swings through that. It's 1-1.
Good changeup right there. 81. Good arm speed, good arm motion. Had him way out in front.
Swings through that as well. It's 1-2 now to TJ Rivera. So Asher doesn't have the velocity that you see sometimes from a lot of these guys, but has had success by spotting his pitches, changing speeds. 1-2 pitch. Check swing. No appeal, so ball was a little outside. 2-2 now to Rivera.
I know they don't do it very often in the major leagues. We spend time in spring training defensing it. Wouldn't this be a great time for a double steal?
Can't
You
remember
got
the last time I
Granderson
saw
on
that.
third.
Yeah.
2-2 pitch out back.
It would be, but TJ Rivera, one of the hottest hitters on their ball club, 337 average. You know, he doesn't have a ton of at bats. Just has this will be his 99th at bat of the season.
Asher from the stretch. 2-2 pitch. That was a line drive in the left field. That's going to be in for a base hit. So Granderson will score. Jay Bruce will move up to second. It's a base hit for Rivera, the 4th straight single for the Mets. And they have a 2-1 lead, and that's going to bring out Bob McClure to have a conversation with his pitcher, Alec Asher. First
Well, this
time.
all started with the breakup of the no-hitter.
Yeah, I was going to say, first time through the lineup, he was perfect, and then second time through, the Mets have done some damage.
See where camera's set up. Supposed to be a backdoor sinker there, and you see it just end up in the middle of the plate and up.
So McClure delivers the message to Alec Asher. Batter's going to be Lucas Duda, who gave the ball a ride to right center field his last time up. You see what the Mets have been able to do since August the 20th. Best in all of baseball. 676 clip. They are winning 25-12. First pitch to Duda's a bit low for a ball. It's 1-0. You look at that list, all those teams in the hunt for the postseason, except for the Braves, who are on that list, and we talked about how well they've been playing in the month of September. But 1-0 pitch, that is lined out of play. So it's 1-1 to Lucas Duda. You know, the significance, guys, of that date, August the 20th. On August 19th, that is when Yoenis Cespedes and Asdrubal Cabrera both came off the disabled list. Since then, both those guys have been red hot, and the New York Mets have been red hot. No coincidence.
Two big pieces to their puzzle, that's for sure, Murph.
Time is called. Asher and Cameron trying to get on the same page. Over for a strike, so 1-2 now is the count to Duda.
Any coincidence that Braves' success was around the time they got Matt Kemp?
It preceded the arrival of Matt Kemp, but not by much. Certainly it was a big part of it. They got him on August the 2nd, but really since the All-Star break, the Braves have been playing well. 1-2 pitch, and that is a swing and a miss. So Alec Asher finally gets the strikeout he was looking for. His second strikeout of the game. However, 33 pitches, a couple of runs have scored. 4 straight hits did the damage for the Mets. By Toyota. Visit buyatoyota.com to find your RAV4 today. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go Phillies. 2-1 is your score. And Mets able to grab the lead in the top half of the 4th inning. So with that, we'll start the bottom half of the 4th, and leading it off for the Phillies will be Ryan Howard, who belted a double to straightaway center field in his first at bat. First pitch to Howard, first pitch swinging on the ground. And up with it is the third baseman Reyes. So 5-3 goes the put out into the shift. So that's 1 out here in the bottom of the 4th. Well, as the we finish up the 2016 season. The Phillies organization obviously already looking ahead to the 2017 season, and well, meetings are already underway, Leslie Goodell, to figure out where they go next.
Yeah, Pete Mackanin and members of his coaching staff met for 4+ hours today with members of the front office, and they said, Pete Mackanin said that they spoke very frankly about every single player individually, went over all of them, and they talked about what their needs are for next year and where they see going with some of these players. He said they even talked about what players they might be able to move to other positions. Should they be able to acquire a player that fills a different role that's already taken? So he thinks that right now the focus is going to be on bringing in a proven hitter. That's what he would like, is a proven hitter. He wants to improve the starting pitching, and he wants to lengthen the bullpen. He said, I'm not going to go as far as saying we're going to win the division next year, but we're going to improve what we put on the field next year. He also really wants to focus on cutting down on strikeouts. He said that a couple of times as well.
All good goals for the coaching staff as they look ahead to 2017. I mean, obviously it remains to be seen the personnel that they'll have, but you know, Pete Mackanin has spoke very frankly over the last couple of weeks about what he believes will help this team take that next step. And you know, all you have to do, guys, is look at the wild card race right now as it stands. I think there's 4 wild card spots, 7 teams still alive for those 4 wild card spots. Some of them with records around 500. Yep. You know, it's not going to take that big of an improvement to get the Phils back into the postseason conversation. Then you have to take that next step after that. But you know, already an improvement from last year to this year, and that's what they're focused on. The entire front office and the coaching staff. And it all starts today. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it started well before today, but.
Mike, I know Pete said that he wants a big bat in the middle of that lineup. Do you prefer that to be right-handed, left-handed, or you don't care? Does someone
has to be left-handed?
Has to be?
Absolutely has to be left-handed. I mean, the only team I can think of that's just almost all right-handed that's successful in Toronto Blue Jays. You know, you just need a guy on the other side. What our team looks like with Ryan Howard in the lineup is just totally different from when he's not. A pitcher like this can pitch to guys coming off the right side, the entire lineup. It just allows him to get too comfortable with just breaking stuff. You just need that guy, and preferably, you know, a couple of guys in the lineup. Like in perfect world, go left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way down your lineup. You pose a much bigger problem for the opposing pitcher. Now, do we have that left-handed hitter in our organization? There's a couple of good ones down below.
Yeah.
Whether they're thinking about the major leagues for those guys or not is another story. But there are a couple guys out there that I think would look real good in the Phillies lineup, in the middle of the Phillies lineup.
That ball is grounded down the third base line by Aaron Altair. Cameron Rupp will return to first. Well, that's what makes the offseason so much fun. You know, the season's a lot of fun, but the offseason can be a lot of fun too when you hear about the different names that are being talked about, maybe joining this organization or that one. I do believe the Phillies will be involved in a lot of conversations in the offseason. And that is a called third strike. Aaron Altair not like the call on the swing, but that's the way it stands. So the Mets still lead it 2-1. over the Phils here at Citizens Bank Park over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of homestands. We've been thanking our crew for the great job that they do.
Wow,
And wow,
look at this.
Christine
Girl,
Connors.
is she a fox or what?
1982, Christine, our stage manager and one of our audio assistants who's standing by me. I thought you were running away because you got wind that we were coming to you. Were you a good soccer player, Christine? No? Yeah, you can say so. It's okay.
Look at that athletic
It's
body.
like I was excellent soccer player. 1982. What were you, like 4?
Well played, Murph.
Yes, Christine does an awesome job up here in the booth as our stage manager most of the time, but also one of our audio assistants as well. And, she's one of the best. We thank her for everything that she does, and we love embarrassing her. So that
She
was
runs
fun.
a tight ship.
Yes, she does. There she goes again. That knowing smile of Christine Connors. Rene Rivera is the batter for the Mets as we begin the top half of this 5th inning. He flew out back in the 3rd. Alec Asher is ahead of him 0-2. So here's the 0-2 pitch outside and in the dirt. 33 pitches for Asher in that 4th inning where he allowed 4 straight hits after retiring the first 11 batters of the game. And that's where we stand with the Mets in their 2-1 lead. Swing and a miss, and he got him. So the 3rd strikeout for Alec Asher, and the 2nd one in a row, and that's the first out here in the top of the 5th, and that'll bring up Mets pitcher Robert Gesellman.
The 0-2 pitch, not very competitive. That one, very competitive because it started out as a strike. Good curveball there by Alec Asher. A pitch that he only throws 3.8% of the time of all his pitches, but that was a good hammer right there.
Good enough to get Rene Rivera, and it's quickly ahead of Gesellman 0-1. The 1 pitch is bunted right at Ryan Howard, who picks it up on 1 hop. 2 outs. Well, earlier tonight is the Philadelphia 76ers night at the ballpark. So how cool is that? You can get your picture taken with the World Series trophy, the one from 1980, and the NBA championship trophy from 1983. That is that's quite a picture. You're not going to get that very often. And there's Gerald Henderson, who threw out the first pitch. Of course, he had such an outstanding high school career. His father, of course, an NBA player and broadcaster. He played at Episcopal Academy in high school and has played in the NBA, now a member of the 76ers. He threw out the first pitch. Nice to see Gerald Henderson. I covered him back in high school when he was on that Episcopal team.
I used to go watch him play.
Yeah, he was
very good
fun
play.
to watch. Very good team they had back then. He went to Duke, of course. So Jose Reyes is the batter. Bad news for the Sixers today. We get word that Ben Simmons has a fracture in his foot. And that is not good news. Now, hopefully it's not an injury that's going to keep him out for too long, but obviously a fracture is a fracture. Got to let it heal. So he'll be on the shelf for a couple of weeks for sure.
It's amazing. It's just,
yeah,
it's amazing.
It's unfortunate as the Sixers, they have appeared to turn the corner. They've got some talent on that team and hoping to put it all together, but Ben Simmons will be a big part of that once he gets healthy. Well, 1-2 pitch, and that is grounded to Ryan Howard. Picks it up, steps on the bag, unassisted put out at 3rd, and we are through the top half of the 5th inning. So Asher gets back on track. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th. Phil's trail by 1. It's now time for our Citizens Bank Minor League Report, and we're looking at the International League and the ERA leaders from this past season. You see Scranton up top with 2.98, but then the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, 3.12. That is a pretty special ERA for his staff. Alec Asher was a part of that staff for a little while this season, as well as some of the other guys that we have seen up here in the big club. So, Citizens Bank, the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Speaking of Asher, he'll lead it off here in the bottom of the fifth. Takes that first pitch inside for a ball. It's 1-0. 3.12 as a staff with the ERA. They'll win a lot of ball games that way. The Iron Pigs certainly did. That is grounded lightly to Jose Reyes at third, who just flips it with his wrist and gets Asher over there at first place. Man, he made that look easy. 5-3 goes to put out.
Yeah, that was definitely a good play over there. I'm not sure he needed to barehand that ball. Once you can make a third base or any infielder barehand the ball, you got a real good chance of getting a hit. And he made this look easy.
Yeah, he really did. You know, Asher was halfway down the line when he grabbed that baseball. It's just a little flick of the wrist, and he got him by 4 steps. So, the top of the order, Cesar Hernandez. He's 0 for 2 tonight. Steps in versus Gesellman. Ground out and a strikeout. 292 for Cesar Hernandez. He swings through that one. It's 1-1 now to Hernandez. On the outside corner for a strike. It's 1-2. Man. Yeah, Cesar didn't agree with that call. That one's upstairs. It's 2-2 now to Hernandez. On the season, lefty's hitting .220 against Gesellman. No home runs, 18 strikeouts. He's got good numbers against the left-handed hitters. And that's a line drive back up the middle for a base hit. Just out of the outstretched hands of Asdrubal Cabrera. And he is a one-out base runner. Hey, Philadelphia Phillies fans, next time you want to grab Philly seats, get the StubHub app. Not only will you find seats you'll love whenever you want, you can find the best seat for your buck when you sort by best value. We take the price and location of seats and show you which tickets at StubHub give you the best deal. So get the StubHub app today.
That was a great at-bat by Cesar with 2 strikes. That pitch was a little up, yeah, but you still have to go with it. You still have to keep it in the center of the field, and he just stayed right on it, drove it right up the center of the field for the line drive base hit. He's done that so much in the last half of the season.
He's on board, and Freddie Galvis drops down a bunt, and Jose Reyes got no shot at getting Freddie Galvis over there at first. Great idea, great execution, and that's a base hit for Freddie Galvis.
It's an excellent idea, and the fact that Freddie, first 2 at-bats, both resulted in swinging strikeouts. This is just textbook. I think you're going to see Freddie do that next year when he is asked to square around and lay down a sacrifice bunt. That obviously bunting for a hit, but he seems to do better when he bunts for a hit and getting that ball down than completely giving himself up. He just seems to get extended too far and is not able to get bunts down. That was textbook there.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you're looking at what would be a great 1-2 combination for the Phillies next year in 2017. Freddie and Cesar.
Yeah. Freddie can do stuff like that. Get himself on base, because that's been the big knock, his on base percentage, but over the last couple of weeks it's been much better. More conscious of it, I think, more than anything. Asdrubal Herrera takes that one a little bit high and outside for a ball.
The sinker definitely the pitch to go after against Robert Gesellman. The slider, he's only thrown it 10 times in tonight's ball game. He's got 8 swinging strikes on that slider.
Wow. Well, Hernandez leads off second, Galvis off first. The pitch to Herrera is outside. 2-0. Rivera flashes the signs to Gesellman, and Odubel wants time. Pitch. Pops straight up. Rivera off with the mask in foul territory, and he'll make the catch. So a foul out by Odubel Herrera, and that's the second out of the inning.
He had a good chance right there, and it looked like a nice fastball to hit. Here it is right here. Yeah, right there, and a belt high, inner third of the plate.
Herrera obviously frustrated with that. We'll see if Maikel Franco can pick up his teammate here. Franco singled in his first at bat, grounded out in his second, both over there towards third base. They'll step out.
Gesellman has a pretty big kick when he goes to the plate. I was thinking that if you can get Freddie to go at the same time, a double steal with 2 outs is not a bad play.
And that one's hard hit to the shortstop, Cabrera. He'll go the short way to second, and he gets Freddie Galvis. 6-4 goes the put out, and the threat for the Phillies is over. So we'll head to the 6th. Mets lead it by 1.
His career. The 2005 NL Rookie of the Year quickly became the 2006 National League MVP. Ryan currently sits second on the team's home run list, third in RBIs, and is among the top 10 in slugging, games, at-bats, total bases, doubles, and walks. Ryan Howard was the ultimate big piece in the middle of the 2008 World Championship lineup. He brought excitement to Philadelphia for 13 seasons, and he brought class. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless.
Well, we told you it was 76ers night at the ballpark, and that means the 76ers dance team is here, and that means the Fanatic can't keep up. He does his best, but yeah, he's asking for help. He needs it out there with the professionals. But he always finishes strong, doesn't he?
Always.
Yeah. Well, Asdrubal Cabrera will be the leadoff batter here in the top of the 6th inning for the Mets. It'll be 2-3-4 for the Mets. Cabrera's 0 for 2. Takes that one for a ball. It's 1-0 to Asdrubal Cabrera. Asher delivers that one over for a strike. It's 1-1. Two now to Asdrubal Cabrera. And you see the pitches by inning, just the 4th inning. Troublesome for Alec Asher. That one is hit on the ground to the right side. Hernandez. 1 out. So as we watch Alec Asher do a nice job against this Mets lineup, an update on another Phillies pitcher, Leslie.
Yeah, Murph, right-handed pitcher Zach Eflin had successful surgery today to repair his left patella tendon. The surgery was performed by Dr. Steve Cohen. Eflin's knee will be immobilized for 6 weeks, and he is expected to make a full recovery.
Certainly good news for Zach Eflin, who had the other knee worked on earlier a couple weeks back. He was recovering from that. They knew he was going to have that surgery, so we wish him the best as he recovers. And I expect he'll be 100% come spring training, or very close to it. Meanwhile, Alec Asher, short of the couple of hard hit balls in the 4th inning, has been pretty good tonight, guys.
Very good. Everything's down for the most part. Ran into a little bit of trouble in that 4th inning, as you alluded to, Murph, but down, down, down is always a good spot to be for a sinker baller.
1-1 pitch. Check swing. Did he go? No. So 2-1 now. To Yoenis Cespedes. He got that rally started in the 4th inning with 2 outs with a base hit. As you see the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Boston looking for win number 93. David Ortiz. He just keeps on doing his thing as that one is ripped foul down the left field line. So 2-2 to Cespedes. RBI double in that game as the Red Sox.
You see that the numbers as Red Sox have?
It's
3 guys with over 100 RBIs.
Yeah.
And it's probably somebody else close, but
yeah, they've had a pretty remarkable offensive season. 2-2 pitch is high. It's 3-2.
Mookie Betts, 660 at bats.
Jackie Bradley Jr. having a great season as well. But David Ortiz is just a remarkable story. 3-2 pitch. Out of play.
I don't know if you guys had alluded to it on the broadcast the other night, but the game that Jared Eichhoff started, and there was a stat that Rick Porcello for the Red Sox had 118 more runs scored during his starts than Jared Eichhoff had in his starts for the Phillies. 118 more runs scored for him, meaning run production.
Yeah, it helps you win some games as that one's lined to right field, and Aaron Altair makes the catch.
That stat just blew me away.
Well, at this time, with 2 outs here at the top of the 6th, we'd like to thank another member of our crew as we finish up the season. And well, he didn't know he was going to be a member of the crew, but Brandon Baumeister is one of our interns, our production intern this year, and he's done a tremendous job. And well, your time's winding down. Good experience. I guess you're going to have to use hand signals, but pretty good experience. Give me a thumbs up if it was. It was a good experience for Brandon. You know, you get a chance to pretty much assist the crew no matter where they need help, whether it be inside the truck or with audio or up here in the booth.
We're over at the Wells Fargo Center.
That's right.
Over there as well.
And now you get to be here with Mike Schmidt and Ben Davis as it finishes up. But we enjoyed having you. And hopefully the next step for you is gainful employment, right? Right? That's what Mom and Dad are thinking, right? Yeah.
Way to go, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was great having you, Brandon. And congratulations on finishing up a successful internship. And I say that because not every internship is successful, but the ones that are generally lead to good things. And we're certainly hoping for good things as well. We've had a lot of interns become crew members here in Philadelphia. So, Brandon, thanks for your time, buddy. We got to do, you need every single person to make this production work, and we certainly are thankful for it. The count is 3-2 now to Curtis Granderson. The 3-2 pitch is fouled straight back. Jay Bruce waits on deck. He had one of those base hits in the 4th inning that helped score the Mets 2 runs.
Alec Asher coming up on 100 pitches.
And he'll get a called third strike on pitch number 99. And it was a good one. So Curtis Granderson goes down looking in this inning, and Another 1-2-3 inning for Alec Asher. We'll head to the bottom of the 6th. Phil's trail by 1. Up here in the bottom of the 6th as they trail the Mets 2-1. 2 runs and 4 hits for the Mets. 1 run, 6 hits for the Phillies as we get set to watch Ryan Howard come to the plate. And Leslie Goodell, as we mentioned before, a couple of his former teammates chiming in on Ryan Howard.
Yeah, I heard from Cole Hamels today. I exchanged text messages with him, and he had so much to say about him. He said he was a difference maker. He talked about how he overcame the uphill battle of trying to upseat a guy like Jim Thome. And he went into, I'll read the rest of the quote to you here. He says, what he accomplished and how he did it was even more inspiring because he did it with sincerity and joy. He took it seriously, but kept it light in the clubhouse and off the field. When he stepped to the plate, you knew he was going to do something special, and he did. Injuries are tough, but he never complained and still went out there to be himself. What he does and still does in the community is amazing, and I'm glad the younger Phillies players have him as their example. Being a great ball player is one thing, but to be a great person, community leader, and athlete is another, and that is what Ryan Howard is and should be looked at as in Philadelphia. So he getting some very nice comments from Cole Hamels, his former teammate, and he deserves them.
Very well said by Cole Hamels, as the count is 1-2 now to Ryan Howard. 1-2 pitch is outside for a ball. It's 2-2.
Hey, Murph, Hamels also said that the reception that Chase Utley got back here, they were watching it in the clubhouse in Texas, and he said his teammates were shocked and amazed at the way the fans responded to him and how impressed they were with the reception, and he said he hopes that Ryan gets equally as good a reception on Sunday.
That would be terrific. I would really expect nothing less as he goes down swinging here, and he's the first out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. But nice words by Cole Hamels. You know, it's cool what they're doing here this weekend. When Ryan Howard comes to the plate, they're showing a different photo from him over his time in professional baseball. They just had up there the when he was the home run derby champ. I guess that was in what year? 08 was that? But it was a young Ryan Howard for sure in the picture, which is great. Keep our eyes on those as the night goes on. Cameron Rupp is the batter. It's 1-0 to Cameron. It'll be Rupp, then Jimmy Paredes, who waits on deck. That one's over for a strike, so 1-1 to Cameron. Singled his last at bat. He's 1 for 2 tonight.
Well, I'm not sure how the catching situation is going to end up next year, but I'm sure Cameron's got the inside track on the starting job. I think knowing that, you know, if you could catch 5 days a week, Ben, catching 5 days a week, and if he knew that was going to happen, I think it would make him a better hitter, a better all-around player.
as he hits that one back up the middle for a base hit. Second hit of the night for Cameron Rupp.
When he's doing that,
Yep.
staying in the middle of the field, using the whole field, he's going to be very, very productive. I think he can do it. First of all, he has the physical makeup to do it. He's a strong kid. He can play every day. He's not going to get worn down by the rigors of catching every day. And I like the improvements he's made defensively this year as well.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument he's the most improved offensively on this team, or
Yes.
certainly one of them. Maybe Cesar Hernandez also in that boat, but Cameron's in that conversation. Well, he leads off first, and the first pitch to Jimmy Paredes is over for a strike. It's 0-1. Paredes 0 for 2 tonight. The 0-1 pitch, grounded foul. It's 0-2 to Paredes. There is some action in the Phillies bullpen. Joely Rodriguez is the left-hander and Michael Marriott the right-hander, both warming up. So if Alec Asher's spot in the lineup were to come up, we may see a pinch hitter at this point, as the Phils trail by 1 in the bottom of the 6th. The 0-2 pitch outside for a ball. It's 1-2. Upstairs, ball 2. 2-2 to Jimmy Paredes. Fouled at the plate. So we'll do it again. It's 2-2. You see Gesellman, who was drafted back in 2011, 13th round pick by the Mets. Not in their plans this year, but forced into their plans. And Steven Matz went down, Jacob deGrom went down, Matt Harvey went down. And I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Terry Collins said that he and Seth Lugo have saved their season, given them a chance to get to the postseason. They brought them up. They asked them to do the best they could in the situation, and they have both been terrific for the Mets, and that is why the Mets still have a chance. In fact, lead the wild card chase with 3 to play.
When opportunity knocks.
That's the truth. 2-2 pitch. That one's hit in the air to center field. Going back on it is Granderson. Get the track at the wall and reaches up and makes the catch. Cameron Rupp will have to retreat to first. Well, Jimmy Paredes sent that as far as you can at Citizens Bank Park without it leaving the ballpark. Straight away center field, and right at the top of the fence, Granderson makes the catch.
Wow. Wow. The ball well. Wind did not knock that one down much. I thought it might have jumped over the fence here. Granderson makes a nice play, and I'd like to see if Cameron rounded second base or not.
He was on the bag, I believe, when he stopped to turn around. He's laughing about something, perhaps that very
I think
topic.
they'd have caught it if he didn't.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
he just went to the bag, kind of tagged up, but went back to first.
So Aaron Altair is the batter as that one squirts away from Rivera. He's going to go have a conversation with Gesellman. It's 2 outs now. Runner at first. Mets also getting some action in their bullpen. Edgin and Robles start to loosen out there for the Mets. Cody Ashley has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for Alec Asher if Aaron Altair can keep this inning alive. In the dirt, 2-0 to Aaron Altair.
Well, this is a strange case right here. Aaron, I just would have never thought he would struggle this much up here. Most of it's been, I guess, in the last month. He just has too good of hitting mechanics. Just got to be one little thing missing.
I still think there's something wrong with his wrist and all that. I don't think he's, you know, a lot of atrophy goes on when you have that surgery, and you know, Mike, better than anybody how you hit with your hands.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have that full hand strength, or it makes it a lot more difficult.
.30 pitch is on the inside corner for a strike, so it's 3-1 now to Aaron Altair. 85 pitches for Gesellman. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th. There's Cody Ashe. 3-1 pitch. Foul back, so it's 3-2 now. Full count to Aaron Altair.
Yeah, I can't pick that swing apart at all. I mean, it looked like a great swing at that pitch. Sometimes just taking a little bit off of your swing and realizing you don't have to swing so hard can be the difference.
Well, he puts a swing on that one. It's a ground ball to third base. Across the diamond comes the throw, and Reyes is able to get the speedy Altair by 2 steps. So the Phils leave a runner on and set one to the fence in center field, but they still trail by 1 as we head to the 7th. Time now for your Delaware Valley Honda Dealers game summary, and there you see the numbers. Phil's got on the board first in the bottom of the 2nd with 1, but top of the 4th, 2 runs for the Mets. That's where we stand. Robert Gesellman's been very good. 6 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run. Cameron Rupp has the sac fly and 2 singles. Alec Asher also been very good, but those 4 hits just happen to be all bunched together, and that's how the Mets were able to score their 2 runs. How about 5 of the 6 innings that Alec Asher has pitched so far have been 1, 2, 3. As Brandon, our intern, hard at work, grabbing the notebook and sprinting down Ashburn Alley. Not sure why, but he is working hard. Yeah, Alec Asher's been, you know, very good. 5, 1, 2, 3 innings out of 6. Hi, Brandon. First pitch to Jay Bruce is a little bit outside for a ball, so it's 1-0. The 100th pitch of the night for Alec Asher. Sails inside for a ball, so it's 2-0 now. Told you Bruce has been hot. 8 for his last 18. He's got 3 home runs, 6 RBIs in that stretch. Takes that one a bit low for a ball, so 3-0 to Jay Bruce. 0-1. That one is hit well to the left side. Going back on it is Paredes. He's at the wall and looking up, and that ball is gone into the flower beds in left field. And Jay Bruce, well, he remains hot. His 4th home run in his last 19 at bats, and that gives the Mets a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, you're exactly right. He got the 3-0 count, got strike one, and something that's very disciplined. Take a 3-1 pitch out of the ballpark to the opposite field. Most guys will try to pull that pitch. But when you're hot, you won't. Boom. His hack, you make the ballpark look small right there.
And just out of the ballpark. Front of the first row out there in left field. So with that home run, Alec Asher's night is over. We'll have a pitching change in Philly. Phil's trail by 2. Your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Delaware Valley Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. So the changes for the Phils. It was a double switch for manager Pete Mackanin. Cody Ashe is now your left fielder, and he will bat in the 9th spot for the pitcher. And Michael Marriott is the new pitcher, appearing in game 24 for the Phillies, 1-0 with an ERA of 5.49. So the book is closed on Alec Asher. He'll leave trailing 3-1 in this one. But saw some good things out of him for the most part tonight.
5 out of the 6 innings he pitched. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So TJ Rivera will step in, and he takes that first pitch from Marriott over for a strike. Here is the line on Asher. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned. No walks, 4 strikeouts. 104 pitches, 66 of them for strikes. That is a strike from Michael Marriott. It's 0-2 now to TJ Rivera. Dirt, 1-2 to Rivera, who, like many of the Mets, been very, very good in the month of September. The last 17 games for Rivera, batting .390, 12 RBIs at that time. The 1-2 pitch, swing and a miss, and he got it. Blows it past him. Michael Marriott's first strikeout. It's the first out here in the top of the 7th inning. The newest Philly Fanatic Bobble of the Month, World Champ Fanatic, is now available exclusively at the Majestic Clubhouse store at Citizens Bank Park. This limited edition collectible features the Fanatic in his retro uniform celebrating the 1980 World Series Championship. Individually numbered out of 150, the World Champ Fanatic Bobble is the 4th edition in a limited series, and that is one hot item as folks gobble them up in a hurry. You're only allowed to buy 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken, as that one squirts through the legs of Cameron Rupp.
We had a few up in the booth here.
Yeah,
they
we
are
had
cool looking.
in the back of the booth right here. I was looking at him earlier.
You can take another look. So this is
another one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's the hot dog shooter. And
make great gifts for Philly fans.
Yeah, they're really cool. If you collect things, if you're a collectible kind of person, they're individually numbered. That's Olympic. That's Olympic Fanatic there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hot dog fanatic, Olympic fanatic,
TV fanatic.
TV fanatic. You're a TV fanatic. First, even up the count 1-1 now to Lucas Duda. Duda's 0 for 2. Pitch inside for a ball, 2-1. Phillies in the shift for Lucas Duda. Only Maikel Franco remains on the left side of the diamond. That pitch is a little bit outside for a ball, so now it's 3-1 to Lucas Duda. Over for a strike. 3-2 now. Full count to Duda.
Don't you hate when they drop a little breaking ball in on you and 3-1 count?
I despised it.
3-2 pitch. That one is hit well to left field. Ashe, though, is there, drifting back and makes the catch.
Of course, when they did it to you, it's understandable. When they did it to me, it was like, come on, you can read the scoreboard. You can see my batting average. Come on.
He threw the same pitch 3-2. Got the fly out to left field. Cody Ashe just in the game.
There you go. It'll find you. And that's the second out of the inning. So Rene Rivera, the catcher, will be the batter. 0 for 2 tonight. First pitch to Rivera is ground ball. Cesar Hernandez makes quick work, and that is the 3rd out of the inning. But Mets were able to add to their lead. Solo shot by Jay Bruce made it 3-1. That's where we stand as we head to the bottom of the 7th. The Mets, final game of the season, our chance to say thank you. It's Fan Appreciation Day. All fans will receive a Phillies Fathead with a 2017 Phillies schedule on it. There will be plenty of prizes and surprises. Get to your seats early, around 2:30. See the presentation to Ryan Howard as well. That's all coming up on Sunday. First pitch at 3:05 versus the Mets. And the Mets have a pitching change, so Gesellman's day is done. He pitched very well once again against the Phils. We'll get you his numbers in a minute. Fernando Salas is the new pitcher, appearing in his 16th game for New York with an ERA 1.76. Well, let's say thank you to another member of our crew, and he is our graphics operator, Frank Buena. And Frank, I interned back in 1993 for Phillies baseball, and Frank was a part of that crew and helped me immensely. And that picture is at the Baseball Hall of Fame. You recognize that, Mike?
Not really.
Or you don't know every inch of Cooperstown? That's all right. But Frank is the man that is in charge of all the graphics that you see up on the screen throughout the game. Does that mean he's in charge of putting up his own picture? No, that comes from a different machine. See, I don't know a whole lot of what's going on in the truck.
Good question, though.
I thought it was a good question. But Frank, I know he's responsible for those numbers on the screen. And Frank has been doing it at a high level for a very long time, and we say thank you to Frank. That one is lifted out of play. Cody Ashe. His first at-bat tonight. He's 1-2 now against Salas. So it'll be Ashe and then the top of the order.
We have Ashe hitting an Asher spot.
Yes. I just crossed out a letter. One-two pitch to Cody Ashe is a swing and a miss. And he's asking if he went around. He's saying, yes, you did, said Ted Barrett. And that's the first strikeout, first out of the inning. First strikeout for Salas. All right, guys, time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question answer. The question was, what Mets pitcher did Ryan Howard hit the most home runs off of? Ben, you seem to think you knew this one pretty quickly.
I think I'm positive with Dylan G.
Dylan G is correct. Do you know how many?
I do not know that, but I know it was just about every game.
Yeah. How about 7 home runs off of Dylan G? You just saw the numbers up there. They were ridiculous. Batted .444 against Dylan G. He was, pretty good pitcher for the Mets. Winning record for the Mets as a starter, but man, Ryan Howard wore him out. 16 RBIs off of Dylan G. As Hernandez grounds that one to the left side. Out number 2. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question. Nice job, Ben.
Well, thank you, Murph.
So Andres Blanco will pinch hit now for Freddie Galvis. Here at the bottom of the 7th inning. See his numbers as a pinch hitter.
Or if Freddie tweaks something.
That's what I'm thinking. Wondering. Try to get word if that's injury related or if he's just looking to get Andres Blanco in the bat. First pitch to him is a little bit inside and low for a ball. It's 1-0. Blanco on the season, 249, 4 home runs, 21 RBIs. You see Freddie. Over for a strike. It's 1-1.
Had to have tweaked something. Had to have.
Yeah, I don't see him coming out of this game.
Time is called.
I know you people got to understand that when you're playing in a series like this, when so much is at stake for the Mets, the Phillies are basically required to, play them as hard as they can play them with the best people they got.
Play it straight is what they say this time of the year. It's part of the reason that all the games on Sunday are at 3:05, so that no one can rest the guy if they know that they're out of it, or if another team is out of it. Everybody kind of going into Sunday. If the playoff positions are up for grabs, no one has an advantage as Blanco swings through that one, and that is a 3rd strike. So That is the reason for the 305 game. So we'll try to find out the reason for Freddie Galvis. Andres Blanco pinch hits and he strikeouts. So we'll head to the top of the 8th. Mets up by 2. Brought to you by Toyota. Tested, trusted Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. By Jefferson, call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet, visit your local dealer at chevydealer.com. We've got a dance-off on the Phillies dugout. Fanatic and Franklin, 76ers. Franklin wanted to change the music on the Fanatic, so he did. Brought his own boombox to the party.
Franklin's wearing Fanatic out here, I think.
Yeah, he is. And, you know, Fanatic can hold his own against anybody. That's for sure. But that was fun for the crowd. Well, let's say thank you to another member of our crew. We go back to 1974 when the southpaw Greg Farnese was on the hill. He is our camera operator, one of our very talented camera operators. He's out there in left field. There he is. Greg Farnese was, well, he was obviously a baseball player. He's also a very talented singer. We've experienced that here at the ballpark with Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and performs all over the Delaware Valley. But that what he's doing right there, he is the best at that. So, Greg, thank you for everything.
That card looked like it was straight out of Bad News Bears, did it?
With the hair?
It really did.
Let's take another look. Yeah.
Doesn't it? I mean, that is.
Greg was bringing some attitude to the hill.
Yeah.
Well, the count is 2-0 now to Mets batter. You know, we got word on Freddie Galvis. We're just getting word through the booth on Freddie Galvis. He had left tonight because of a right hamstring tightness. That is what we are being told. So that's the word on that. So Diaza is the pinch hitter right now for the Mets, but it remains to be seen if Freddie Galvis, we've seen the last of him this season or not. That's that good as that's on the outside corner. It's a right hamstring tightness.
We had to talk about how durable he is.
Yeah.
He probably did on the bunt, his last at bat, you know, legging out that single to first base. It's a cold night.
This to Alejandro Diazo is a line shot into right field. That's a base hit. Well, Altair will get it in, but he is a base runner here to lead it off at the top of the 8th inning. Michael Marriott.
Dropped behind 3-0, worked it back to 3-2, and got what they call a cookie right down the middle, and he smoked it.
So that'll bring up the top of the order, Jose Reyes. He is 0 for 3 tonight. Grounded out to Ryan Howard, his last at bat. There's a runner on. Diaza leads off of first. Throw over. Daza gets back in time.
Think about a bunt here at all with Reyes? Just saying. I'm just saying. If you're the other coach, the other manager, play for that 3-run lead versus a 2-run lead.
It wasn't bunting there, but fouls it straight back.
Just a suggestion.
Certainly Jose Reyes is capable of laying down a bunt. We've seen that time and time again. But he hits that one through the hole for a base hit. So move the runner over, and then it's kicked by Aaron Altair. So that's going to allow Daza to move up to third. Just went right under the glove, I think, of Aaron Altair. So that'll be an error on Altair. It'll allow Daza to move up to third. It will be a base hit for Jose Reyes. And now runners on the corners. Nobody out here in the eighth. Take a look.
That's why you throw a nice little bend. You throw a nice little breaking ball in there so he can pull it to the right side. First baseman holding the runner on. That's it. Whoa. The ball going under Aaron Altair's glove, allowing the runner to move up to third.
So the Mets have something cooking here in the top of the eighth, with runners on the corners and nobody out. And Asdrubal Cabrera steps to the plate, and he hits that one in the air, not deep. And Altair comes running in, and the wind is pushing it back. And now Cesar Hernandez bobbles it, but makes the catch. And the throw comes back into Cameron Rupp. At the last moment, Cesar Hernandez calls off Altair, bobbles it, but able to hold on. So that is a big out for the Phillies that could have been disastrous.
Well, first of all, I think this is Altair's ball. He's got to be coming in hard, screaming, "I got it, I got it, I got it." He's got the angle to make the throw to home plate. Luckily, Cesar saved that catch.
That is some quick hands.
Wow.
Because that not only popped out of his glove, but it popped out of his glove and shot away from him. He's able to catch it. So a break there for the Phils after the bobble by Cesar Hernandez. But Phils are not out of this yet with runners on the corners, and Yoenis Cespedes steps to the plate. Jose Reyes now with a 6-game hit streak. He's on base, as is Daza over there at third. Cespedes swings through that one. It's 1-1. Rodriguez is up again in the pen, the lefty for the Phils.
Got away with one right there, Ben.
Yes, he did.
Breaking ball hanging on the inner half of the plate, belt high.
Rupp took that one off the mask, shakes it off. Here you see Addison Reed, the right-hander for the Mets, is up, and well, looks like he'll start to warm in the Mets bullpen.
Phillies have made zero attempt to go in on Yoenis Cespedes this evening. Zero. Everything's been away, down and away.
The last time up, he lined out hard to right field. Second time up, ground ball to the vacated second base with the shift on.
Another throw over to first, and that was close, but Reyes gets back.
You're right, Ben. You got to show this guy something up around his chin, around his letters. You got to move the upper body off the plate a little bit. You can't just live on that outer half.
Perfect example of why Ryan plays so far in front of the bag is beyond me. And he's always done it.
Another throw over.
That ball's getting to Reyes' body so much faster in the air than it is after Ryan catches it and tries to apply the tag. It's just a matter of physics.
Well, the runners lead off the corners. The 1-2 pitch. Foul out of play. Do it again. 1-2. We showed you Yoenis Cespedes, kind of trying to stretch out on the base pass when he was on there before. He seems to be still something's bothering Yoenis Cespedes tonight physically. Another throw over. Races back. Seems to be favoring something.
Injuries have plagued him over the years, but I think it's a perfect case of he is so muscular. His muscles have no place to stretch.
That one came inside, and they're asking if he swung. Looked to me like Cespedes thought it hit him.
The bat ended up in the grass in front of home plate. In the grass.
Now the Phillies dugout.
That's the pitch we were talking about.
It didn't appear that he swung, and now.
Well, the bat went forward.
There was some chirping coming out of the Phillies dugout.
That's a swing. The whole bat went forward. It's got to be a swing.
Now, conversation. First base umpire Will Little telling Pete Mackanin, don't come out here. And he tossed him out of the game because Pete did come out there. So Pete Mackanin has been ejected from this ball game.
Does he know he was ejected?
I'm not sure.
He sure isn't screaming too much about it.
Maybe, yeah, well, let's see. He's going to pass off the lineup card to Larry Boa. So he'll head underneath after being ejected from the ball game. Well, the Phillies were arguing the same thing you guys were saying, that was a swing. Will Little said it wasn't. So it's a 2-2 count. Now it's way outside. It's 3-2. Take another look. His hand stopped. He lets go of the bat.
Does the bat not move forward through the hitting zone?
I don't know what the rule on that is.
Yeah, I mean, he lets go of the bat. I don't either. I don't know what the rule is. So,
I thought he was arguing that it hit him.
3-2 pitch, and it's popped up in the air. On the right side, Ryan Howard fighting the wind, and that one hit the bag. It's a fair ball. Safe at first. The throw goes down to second. Out at second is Jose Reyes. So that is the second out of the inning. The wind took hold of that one. Cesar Hernandez called it. Then Ryan Howard called him off. It hits the bag. Man, the Phils get another break as they're able to get the out at second base. That's about the strangest 1-6 put out or 3-6 put out that
let's back up on that.
Take another look.
He gets an RBI, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. There's the out at second. The run does score.
Well, Ryan Howard made a heck of a play after the initial part of that play happened.
Well, we've seen the wind play havoc on a couple of baseballs tonight. It certainly played havoc on that one. We're going to have a pitching change. Phillies trail by 3. in what has been a well, very strange inning, to say the least, as Michael Marriott reflects on what went right and what went wrong in that inning, from his standpoint and from a defensive standpoint. Well, Sunday at 10 o'clock, the Eagles may be off this week, but our experts are not. Former Eagles linebacker Seth Joyner talks birds, Wentz, and all things NFL. Watch a special Sports Seth Central with Seth Joyner Sunday night here at 10 o'clock, only on CSN. Sports Seth Central. It's hard to say. Joely Rodriguez is the new pitcher for the Phils, with 2 outs here in the top of the 8th. 1 run across, a runner on first. Pete Mackanin has been ejected from this ball game, so Larry Boa has the reins right now. You're scoring at home. Fielder's choice for Yoenis Cespedes. Does get an RBI, to answer your question, Mike. 3-6 goes put out over there at second base. So one of the stranger RBIs you'll see.
I've never seen that.
Nor have I. But there's 2 outs now for Rodriguez. Curtis Granderson is the batter, and it's a little bit low for a ball, so 2-0.
Well, I'll tell you about the wind here tonight. That ball was popped up to short and maybe a little bit behind the first base side of the infield there, and then Ryan went back with Cesar, and all of a sudden it's coming down on first base.
I mean, it is whipping. You know, with the ball in the air, I thought Cesar was calling for it and going to be underneath it. Then Ryan called him off, and then the ball pushed all the way up to the bag and hits the bag. I mean, you know, got to catch that baseball. Yeah. Ultimately, you have to catch the ball, but you see the wind. We've seen the wind play havoc on a couple of balls tonight. So 3-0 pitch.
You know, it reminded me a little bit of Candlestick Park. In the old days, you might see that at Candlestick Park because the wind was circling around.
You can hear the wind
ridiculously at Candlestick Park.
Yeah, I mean that is my memory of Candlestick was the way the winds played. You remember having a pop up third base?
Oh yeah, so definitely. Yeah, but you know, you were ready for that. You know, if a pop up goes up, I mean, if it goes up to short and it's blowing real hard in from right, you know it's going to come over to me. I mean, you make plans for plays like that, and you know, this is Major League Baseball, and with all due respect, the pop up goes up and the wind's blowing in a gale from right field, that's going to affect it.
Be ready. Jay Bruce is the batter. He's 2 for 3 tonight. That one sails outside to Bruce, so it's 1-0 to Bruce. And Bob McClure wants to have a quick conversation with his left-hander, who is having a hard time finding the strike zone.
He's just coming in and overthrowing everything. You know, coming in this situation, you got a couple lefties up, walks Granderson on 4 pitches. Now, you were brought in this game for a reason. You can't walk a lefty on 4 pitches like that.
There's 2 guys that don't have their gloves over their mouth there.
Catch anything there?
When did that start?
Well, the conversation is over at pitcher's mound, so Joely Rodriguez has gotten the message that Bob McClure was delivering, and he'll step back in, and so will Jay Bruce, with the count 1-0. Runners on first and second. 1 run across here in the 8th. The Mets lead at 4-1. Ball 2. Well, the Mets are watching the out-of-town scoreboard for sure, brought to you by Toyota. St. Louis is on their tail, 2 games behind in that wild card chase, and they're winning right now at home versus the Pirates at the top of the 5th, 1-0 in that game. Won't matter if the Mets keep winning. They control their own destiny. 2-0 pitch. That's on the outside corner for a strike. So 2-1 now to Bruce. Luis Garcia is warming up. John McLaren keeping an eye on Garcia out there in the bullpen. 2-1 pitch. Ground ball, and that is into the vacant hole on the left side. So that's going to plate another run, and Granderson will move up to third. Jay Bruce has 3 hits in this game, and once again he hits them where they are not.
Yeah, that's good hitting. Gets that lefty. I tell you, he was just willing to settle for a nice little ground ball RBI.
Well, this is the first pitch that Rodriguez throws for a strike. I'm sorry, the second pitch he's throwing for a strike. And if you're Jay Bruce in that situation, every ball that he threw, even the strike before that he threw for a strike, every pitch was missing in the same spot or was in the same vicinity. If I'm Jay Bruce, I'd have done exactly the same thing. Just reached out, been diving, and trying to hit that ball in that hole. Exactly what he did.
Well, the result was another run for the Mets. They now lead it 5-1 here in the top of the 8th inning. Runner still on the corners with 2 outs. The batter is T.J. Rivera. Jay Bruce's 7th 3-hit game of the season. 66th in his career. First pitch to Rivera is a swing and a miss. Rivera's 1 for 3. He has a single, also a strikeout in his last at bat. Granderson is over there on third. Bruce leads off first. One pitch is over for a strike. It's 0-2. The 0-2 pitch in the dirt. Fouled at the plate off of Rivera, and we'll do it again. Count remains 1-2. You see Reed, Addison Reed, and Robles moving around in the Mets bullpen. Addison Reed has been so good for the Mets all season long in that 8th inning role. That one is popped out of play, and that'll find the seats. So once again, 1-2 remains the count to T.J. Rivera.
This kid's done a heck of a job. Neil, it's another thing we didn't talk about, or at least Ben and I were talking about. They lost Neil Walker too.
Yeah. Wow. They have lost so many guys to injuries, and, and some of the guys are back, Cespedes, Cabrera, but they missed them for part of the season. That one's in the dirt, so it's 2-2. But their pitching staff has been decimated by injury. Starting staff, particularly. Second baseman, as you mentioned. Don't forget about David Wright, who started the season at third base for these guys. It's been, Lucas Duda missed a lot of time over there at first base.
A lot of time.
2-2 pitch. Another foul ball.
That's what a good hitter does with men in scoring position right here. He gives you as tough as that bat that he can give you. Wants that RBI.
Two-two pitch. Swing and a miss, and he got him. So Joely Rodriguez able to end the 8th inning with a strikeout, but not before the Mets are able to put a couple more runs on the board. We will head to the bottom of the 8th. Mets lead by 4.
September 30th, 2007. That's when the Phillies beat Washington 6-1 here at Citizens Bank Park. They clinched the National League East Division title in the last game of the season as the Mets, who were tied with the Phillies for first place, lost to Florida in that game 8-1. I remember exactly where I was when that happened back in 2007. Ryan Howard had a home run in that game, a 2-run home run in that game. He had 3 RBIs to help the Phils win. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Mets game started a half an hour earlier, and they were getting smoked early on in that game. And the Phils came out, jumped out to an early lead, and the rest is history. That was Tom Glavine on the mound for the Mets at that point. And the two teams were tied, so one had to win, one had to lose for it to be all finished on that day, and it was September 30th, 2007. That was the start of some pretty special things in Philadelphia. Well, here we sit in the bottom of the 8th inning. Odubel Herrera is the batter, and Addison Reed is the new pitcher for the Mets. And we have some defensive changes as well for the Mets. Juan Lagares is checked in. He'll play center field now, and Curtis Granderson has moved from center field to right field for the Mets. So Jay Bruce's night is done, and it was a good one for him. Herrera takes that one over for a strike. It's 1-1. Addison Reed, I mentioned, has been so good, guys, in the 8th inning. Abbott has collected his major league leading 39th hold on Wednesday in Miami. It's the 4th most in major league history in terms of holds in the 8th inning, handing your closer a save situation. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what you need, an 8-9 combination like the Mets have.
He's got a little bit of a strange delivery. He kind of hides the ball and then jumps at you. It's kind of a little freaky when you're a hitter for a pitcher to come out of a gyration when he lets go of the ball.
Well, the count is 1-2 to Odubel Herrera. Yeah, that one is inside, so it's 2-2. It'll be Herrera, then Franco, and then Ryan Howard. 3, 4, 5 for the Phillies, who have some work to do here in the bottom of the 8th inning, trailing the Mets by 4. Another version of the El Torito horns. He swings through that one, and that's a strikeout for Addison Reed. One down here in the 8th. Let's find out what's going on around baseball. Leslie Goodell.
Thanks, Murph. Time for our T-Mobile Greater coverage of baseball. Despite a last-place finish in the NL Central, the Reds have renewed the contract of manager Brian Price. A 1-year deal plus an option. The entire coaching staff has been asked back for 2017 as well. And it's been a good run for Matt Holliday in St. Louis, but that time is now coming to an end. The veteran outfielder will wrap up his time in St. Louis this weekend. He has been told that they will not be picking up his $17 million option. So they are activating him from the disabled list. He broke his right thumb when he was hit by a pitch back on August 11th, and it hasn't healed as quickly as he had hoped. So they're activating him from the disabled list, so he gets to make a curtain call in front of the St. Louis fans this weekend, which is going to be pretty interesting, Murph. That's going to take some strategy on their part, because these games mean something for St. Louis this weekend, but Matt Holliday will get a curtain call.
It's interesting. A classy move by the Cardinals organization to allow that to happen, but Leslie's right. These games still mean something for the Cardinals. Now, that may change by Sunday. They might be out of it by then, as Franco fouls that one out of play. But right now, it would be interesting to see a guy who's really not able to play be into the lineup. Here you see the score in the 5th. Cardinals and the Pirates. As long as the Cardinals keep winning, they'll keep staying in it, at least for another day and a half. The Giants, the San Francisco Giants, are the other team involved in that wild card. They're playing the Dodgers tonight. Of course, that game hasn't started out on the West Coast yet. Franco fouls that one back off of the mask of Rivera. It remains 1-2.
Check for dents.
Michael just goes too hard, you know, 2 strikes, swings too big. He does not have to swing that hard and that off balance at any point during an at bat, but especially with 2 strikes. That looked like a quick pitch to me right there.
Now it was quick and it was a strike. And Mikel Franco goes down looking for the second out here in the 8th inning.
Talk about being defenseless.
Watch. Doesn't this look like a quick pitch? Look at that. By quick pitch, I mean.
Yeah, it doesn't come to a complete stop.
Yeah, he buried his windup, and I was like, boom. He did not come to a stop. Of course, he doesn't need to come to a stop. Nobody on base, right?
No, he does not. Ryan Howard once again getting a nice ovation here from the Phillies fans as he takes that first pitch over for a strike. Ryan doubled in his first at bat, almost homered, about at the middle of the wall out there in center field, as you see Ryan Howard on that 2008 World Series t-shirt that fan is wearing. He doubled, grounded out, and has struck out in this game, 1 for 3. Ryan Howard. Pitch is inside for a ball, 2-1.
Numbers are eerily similar against every NL East team.
Yeah, they really
are. He has destroyed National League East pitching in his career. Destroyed it.
His numbers versus the Mets, 47 home runs versus the Mets organization. Only the Braves, where he's hit 52, does he have more. And is capturing the moment. Swings through that one, though, and that is a 3rd strike. So Ryan Howard, a strikeout victim for the 2nd time tonight. And that'll end the 8th inning. So we're going to head to the 9th, and the Phillies still trail it by 4. Well, every time the Phillies retire the opposing team 1-2-3, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Alec Asher, despite leaving this game trailing 3-1, did that 5 times tonight. Retired the Mets 1-2-3. But nonetheless, the Phillies trail by 4 as we head into the top of the 9th inning. Luis Garcia will be the new pitcher for the Phillies. Garcia checking into this ball game, and he'll face Lucas Duda to start. It'll be Duda, then Rivera, and then Lagares, who's batting in the 9th spot now. First pitch to Duda is over for a strike. Jeurys Familia is warming up in the Mets bullpen. which is not good news for a team who is trailing. Duda grounds that one into the shift. Hernandez from right field, and that's the first out.
Well, it just...
Time now for our Hyundai defensive play of the game. And it, well, it was off the bat at Jimmy Paredes, guys.
Yeah, and he hit it good. That wind is treacherous out there tonight. Maybe 4 balls go out to center field without the wind tonight. Granderson makes a catch right against the padded wall. And that's your Hyundai defensive play of the game, brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. And that's a great car, by the way.
You like your Hyundai?
You're the official new Genesis now. Have you seen
yeah,
that?
they're nice. Absolutely, they're very nice. Rene Rivera, I don't know what he drives, but he's at the plate right now. He's 1-0 to him, and he hits that one off the fists and into right field for a base hit. So he fights that one off and into right field, and he's a 1-out base run.
I got to say it, nice little piece of hitting.
Yeah.
Right-hand hitter goes with an inside fastball, shoots it the other way. Just out of the reach of Cesar Hernandez.
So Juan Lagares will be the batter. He checked in to play center field, a defensive replacement, part of a switch with Jerry Collins, and get his first at bat. Oh, I'm sorry, Michael Conforto steps in. He's batting for Juan Lagares. So Lagares, night was short out there in center field, so Conforto takes that first pitch over for a strike. There you see Conforto's numbers. 2 for 11 as a pinch hitter. That one's in the dirt. It's 1-1 to Michael Conforto. Runner at first is Rene Rivera. One pitch. Foul ball. It's 1-2.
Conforto's had some struggles this year, up and down on the shuttle in AAA and the big leagues. Last year, watching this young man hit, thinking there's a batting title in his future. And I'm not saying there's not going to be one.
Ground ball. Howard throws over to second for one. Back to first. Safe down there at first base. But a nice play by Ryan Howard, who got the throw over there quickly to Andres Blanco. So 3-6 goes the put out. A much more conventional 3-6 than the last one we saw. Conforto is able to beat the throw. We'll take another look. I'm sure the Phillies are looking at it as well.
Ryan got a nice belt high hop, nice throw to second base. Didn't get a chance to get back, get a stretch on that thing. I'll tell you what, if he'd have got back to the bag and got a nice little cheating stretch on, he might have got the call.
So Conforto is safe down there at first. He's a base runner, but now 2 outs. And Jose Reyes, the top of the order for the Mets, is up. He is 1 for 4 tonight. Singled in the 8th inning. Takes that one low for a ball. It's 0-1. Frank Herman starting to warm up in the Phillies bullpen. Reyes takes that one on the inside corner for a strike. One pitch on the outside corner for a strike. It's 1-2. Patrick Schuster also warming up in the Phillies bullpen. So Herman and Schuster. The count is 1-2 to Jose Reyes.
Nice play by Cameron. Very nice play.
You know, you're talking earlier about Conforto. I thought the same thing about him.
Yeah.
What a great young hitter he is. Ended up in the minor leagues this year.
Yeah.
They got a very strong bench.
Yeah,
the Mets.
Terry Collins had him in the 3-hole to start the season, and rightfully so. I think he will eventually be that good.
Just a bit high for a ball, so it's 3-2 to Jose Reyes.
You see Conforto.
Dribble Cabrera is on the on-deck circle. Garcia has his sign. 3-2 pitch. Fouled at the plate. Nope, fair ball.
Like a cat back there, big fella.
Nicely done by Cameron Rupp. And that's the final out of the inning. Jose Reyes, well, he's disappointed.
That was the shortest out I've ever seen.
That was pretty quick. And we'll go to the ninth. Phils trail 5-1. WB Mason deliveries of the game, and they're all off the bat of Jay Bruce.
A very good night tonight. 3 hits, a couple RBIs, really staying on pitch as well. See that bullet past Cesar, and his ball out to left field, gets a 3-1 pitch. Doesn't try and do a whole lot with it, gets up in that wind to left field. And then the 8th inning, again, not trying to do too much, taking what the defense will give you, shoots it through that hole against the shift to score Cespedes again. Jay Bruce, a very happy man, and they are your WB Mason deliveries of the game.
And that's where we stand. The Phillies trailing by 4 here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Told you coming into the game that the Mets' magic number was 2. And they'll hand the ball to Dries Familia. Look at his numbers, 3 and 4. 50 saves so far this season. This is not a save opportunity, but 50 out of 55 this year, an ERA of 2.62. He's as good as anybody in baseball in this role, guys.
Powerful, powerful arm. It's a quick arm. Very good sinker, late life. Sometimes it'll have some lateral movement to it. Sometimes it's 98 and it's straight down.
Now he'll face Cameron Rupp, and then Tommy Joseph, who has moved into the on-deck circle to pinch hit for Luis Garcia. Rupp has a couple of hits tonight. He's 2 for 2. He also has the sac fly. Completed the Phil's first run of the ball game. They had a 1-0 lead at the time, but the Mets have scored 5 unanswered. The Phils have 3 outs to try and score 4 runs or more. One pitch. That's over for a strike. 22. That final out of the bottom of the 8th inning. Cameron Rupp was so quick. I didn't see him even tag. I didn't see him tag Cabrera, but I like it when he pops out there like that quickly. 1-2 pitch. That one is hit back up the middle, but second baseman over there gathers it up. Cabrera and throws him out. Take another look, because was tough to see. Reyes out in front of the plate. Rupp picks it up in fair territory and just tags him right on the hip.
Very unusual, too, unassisted. You see that ball that Reyes hit, though, actually hit behind home plate.
And then went out into fair territory, which is where Rupp picked it up. So I don't think Reyes knew exactly what happened there. Well, one down, and Tommy Joseph is the batter. Going outside for a ball, 1-0.
I actually asked Tommy Joseph about Familia, Jerry's Familia, in New York, and he said that from the time he breaks the ball from his glove to the time he releases it, he said it's the quickest arm he's ever seen. So you break and time to release, he said it's just quick. And obviously the velocity that he throws with and the movement that he throws with doesn't help either.
Well, he has been good for the Mets. I mentioned 50 saves. First Dominican-born reliever to notch 50 saves in a season. He's the 13th pitcher to reach 50 saves in a year. The 2-0 pitch to Joseph is over for a strike. It's 2-1. A reminder, tomorrow the Phils and the Mets again. That game has been changed to 1 o'clock, and that is on Fox, and then on Sunday back here on CSN at 3 o'clock, the final game of the season. Now it's pulled foul, so it's 2-2 now to Tommy Joseph. Pitch to Joseph, swing and a miss, and he got him. So a strikeout for Familia, and that's the second out here in the 9th inning, and the Phils are down to their final out.
Tough assignment there, facing Familia, coming off the bench on a cold night like this. Whew. You see the pitch, nasty slider slash cutter, yeah, maybe a curveball, actually in a perfect spot.
So Aaron Altair is the Phils' last chance to keep this ball game going. Takes that first pitch low for a ball. It's 1-0.
It's the 13th strikeout in the Phillies offense tonight. 13th.
It's not what you're looking for the Phils. Outside for a ball, 2-0. See Altair's night 0 for 2.
And 6th out of the last 8 hitters.
He misses there too, so it's 3-0 now to Aaron Altair with Cody Ashe waiting on deck. Phils need base runners. A couple of them. And they'll get one.
There you go.
See, it's all about positive reinforcement. So Altair heads down to first. He is a 2-out base runner. Gonna bring up Cody Ashe. See Terry Collins talking it over with some of his coaches. Rene Rivera wants a word with Familia as well. So Cody Ashe is the batter with Altair down there at first base. 0 for 1. He struck out in the 7th after coming in to replace Jimmy Paredes. Off goes the runner, Altair, and he'll move up to second. No stolen base for Altair.
4-2.
I was just thinking of what if in that situation right there you smelled that he was gonna take second. Why not just pitch out and throw him out?
I don't think they were holding them all, were they? Well, they were not holding them all.
So what?
Yeah, I mean, you could. The 0-2 pitch. Over for a called third strike. So Kodiashi is a strikeout victim, says Ted Barrett, and that will do it for the Phils tonight. They will fall to the Mets 5-1. Well, New York came in with a magic number of 2. It now stands at 1, and remains to be seen if it gets any better than that, as the Cardinals have a 2-0 lead over the Pirates in their ball game. But the Phils, well, as you pointed out, 14 strikeouts for the Phils offense and the Mets pitching tonight, and it's hard to get things done with that many strikeouts. Our Chevy player of the game was Jay Bruce. You see his numbers tonight. He had the 2 hits, the 2 singles, and the home run, 3 RBIs. He has been on fire for the New York Mets, batting .500, 10 for his last 20. Mets bullpen was excellent again. We've seen that over the last couple of weeks against this Phillies team. So they take home the victory tonight in game 1 of this 3-game series. We'll be back to put a wrap on it right after this.